Alrighty, so the next big event on my timeline is the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre was a deadly confrontation / riot that occurred on March 5th in 1770 in Boston, Massachusetts. This massacre happened as a result of other occurring violence due to the Stamp Act that was extremely opposed by the American colonists at the time, by the British Parliament. Previous to the Boston Massacre, there were numerous outcries and violent events regarding the Stamp Act, so it wasn't like it was uncommon for people to gather and protest the Stamp Act. However, the Boston Massacre is more brutal than the other events. So basically, the day of the massacre itself, Private Hugh White was protecting the king's money inside a custom house, which basically doesn't have anything to do with the American colonists. But eventually an angry mob of American colonists gathered and began threatening violence. And Private Hugh White responded back and hit one of the colonists with his bayonet. And that sparked outrage. Because then the colonists responded back to that little form of violence by throwing snow and ice at the one private. So eventually it got too much for him to handle, and he needed to call in for reinforcements. And to say the least, the violence escalated really quickly. The colonists were using things they were able to just kind of find around, like sticks and even some clubs to fight the called-in soldiers, and all of a sudden someone yelled fire and a gunshot was launched. It's unknown who yelled fire, who fired the first shot, but basically it resulted in a lot of gunfire, and five American colonists were killed in the process. And basically the long-term result of the Boston Massacre led to the large anti-British political ideologies, which eventually did lead to the American Revolution. Some of the other events that happened, like the Boston Tea Party, were not as violent. However, 5 people died in the Boston Massacre. So it's obvious that people were not only just fighting for what they believed in, but they were willing to die for it.